I still remember the moment my name was missing from the graduation list. It was the most humiliating day of my life. I had done everything right, or so I thought. But by then, my life had already unraveled, and it all started with one man, Dr. Omondi. I came from a humble background and was the only one to ever attend university from my village. I held the village's hope, and all the girls looked up to me. I was lucky to perform well in my high school exams, although I studied in a local school. My exceptional performance earned me a scholarship to study psychology at a city university in Kenya. When I got my scholarship, the entire village celebrated. People brought gifts, bananas, eggs, and even a bag of maize. They said it was to bless my journey. My father, a proud but quiet man, kept telling everyone, "Sharon has made us proud. She's going to make history." My mother, though she tried to hide it, had tears in her eyes every time someone mentioned my success. On the day I was leaving, the entire village turned up at our homestead. Kids ran around shouting my name. Women came to hug me, some whispering blessings, others asking me to never forget where I came from. One old man told me, "You carry all our hopes, Sharon. Don't let us down." Those words weighed heavy on me, but they also gave me strength. My parents couldn't stop smiling, but I knew their hearts were heavy. They'd never been to Nairobi, and sending their daughter there felt like releasing a bird into a sky full of hawks. My mother gave me endless advice, most of it warnings about staying away from bad influences and city boys. My father just said, "Work hard and make us proud." I promised them I would. When I arrived on campus, it was like stepping into another world. The city was loud, crowded, and overwhelming. The university was massive, with buildings that seemed to touch the clouds. Everyone looked so confident, walking quickly, talking on phones, laughing in groups. I felt like a small fish in a very big pond. But I adapted. I worked harder than I'd ever worked before. I stayed up late in the library, made notes, and attended every class. I also made friends, something that came easily to me as an extrovert. My new friends helped me navigate campus life, from where to find affordable meals to which lecturers were strict. By the end of my first semester, my classmates elected me class representative. It was a big responsibility, but I loved it. It gave me the chance to interact with professors and represent my peers. That's when I got to know Dr. Omondi. At first, he was just another professor, friendly, charismatic, and approachable. He often praised my work and encouraged me to keep aiming high. I thought nothing of it, but then the texts started coming. At first, the texts from Dr. Omondi seemed harmless, even kind. "Sharon, you're doing so well in class. Keep it up. You're the brightest in the group. You'll go far." I was flattered. It's not every day a professor takes notice of your hard work, and I felt proud as someone as knowledgeable as him thought highly of me. I'd reply politely, keeping my responses brief but respectful. "Thank you, sir," or "I'll do my best." But then his messages shifted, becoming more personal. "How are you finding the city? Do you have someone showing you around? A girl like you must have many admirers. Be careful of city boys." I thought it was strange for a professor to ask such things, but I convinced myself he was just looking out for me, maybe like a mentor. After all, I was new to the city, and his concern seemed genuine. I brushed off the unease and replied cautiously, "The city is different, but I'm adjusting. Thank you for asking." Then, one evening, he sent a message that caught me off guard. "Let's grab coffee sometime. I'd love to hear more about your goals." I stared at the screen, unsure of what to say. It felt odd. Professors didn't typically invite students for coffee. But I didn't want to offend him, so I typed back, "Thank you, but I'm quite busy with assignments and classwork." He replied almost instantly with a laughing emoji. "You're always serious. Coffee won't take all day, Sharon." I didn't respond, hoping he'd drop it, but he didn't. He asked again the next week and the week after that. Soon, he started waiting for me outside the lecture hall after class. At first, it was casual, a simple, "Good work today, Sharon," or a question about my classmates. But slowly, his comments became more personal. "You look beautiful today. That color suits you. You're too serious with your books. A little fun won't hurt." I felt a knot in my stomach every time. His tone was light, almost playful, but there was an edge to it that made me uncomfortable. I didn't want to offend him or create tension, especially as he was one of my professors. So I smiled politely and kept my distance, carefully choosing my words. "Thank you, sir. I'll keep that in mind." But even as I tried to act normal, I could feel his eyes lingering too long, his presence becoming heavier. Something didn't feel right, but I kept telling myself it was all in my head. After all, he was a respected professor. Surely he meant no harm. Bottom of form. By the end of my first year, I had done well in all my classes. My grades were proof that I deserved to be there. But when I didn't have any classes with Dr. Omondi in second year, things got strange. One day, I went to another professor's office to discuss an assignment. As I was leaving, I bumped into Dr. Omondi. His smile disappeared the moment he saw me. "You're quite close to Professor Mutua, huh?" he said, his voice cold. I laughed nervously. "No, sir. It's just about an assignment." He nodded but didn't smile back. Later that night, he texted me, "You don't reply to my messages anymore? Are you too busy for me?" I ignored it. Something about his tone made me uneasy. If you enjoy this story, please like this story, comment, and subscribe to this channel. By third year, I found myself in Dr. Omondi's class again for 2 units. From the very first lecture, I could feel the shift in his demeanor. It was like a storm brewing, silent but threatening. He didn't greet me, didn't even look my way. In class, he would lavish praise on other students for their answers, even the ones that were blatantly wrong. But when I raised my hand, nothing. It was as if I didn't exist. Even my friends started noticing. "What's going on with you and Dr. Omondi?" one of them whispered after class. "Nothing," I said quickly, forcing a laugh. But inside I was boiling with frustration and dread. I knew exactly what was happening. He was punishing me for not giving him what he wanted. The tension wasn't just in class. Anytime I crossed paths with him on campus, he would give me a cold, dismissive glance that felt like a slap in the face. It wasn't long before whispers started spreading among my classmates. I overheard one girl say, "I think Sharon and Dr. Omondi had a falling out. She's not his favorite anymore." When our end of semester results were posted, my heart stopped. I had failed both of his units. Failed. I stared at the grades, my eyes blurring with disbelief. I had never failed anything in my life, not even a simple quiz. I knew I had worked hard and nailed those exams. Something was wrong. Desperate for answers, I went to his office. I knocked on the door, my hand trembling, and stepped in when he said, "Come in." He was sitting behind his desk, flipping through some papers as if I wasn't standing right there. I cleared my throat, trying to keep my voice steady. "Sir, I need to talk about my results." He finally looked up, his face unreadable. He didn't even offer me a chair. "You've changed, Sharon," he said, his tone sharp. "Sir, I don't understand why I failed." I started, but he cut me off with a wave of his hand. "Do you really want to fix this?" he asked, leaning back in his chair, a smirk creeping across his face. I blinked, confused but hopeful. "Of course, sir. I worked really hard and—" He didn't let me finish. His smirk widened and he leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping to a near whisper. "You know what you need to do. Don't play innocent with me." My stomach twisted into knots. The way he looked at me, hungry, predatory, made my skin crawl. My heart raced as his words sank in. I don't understand," I stammered, though I understood perfectly. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile you see right before a predator strikes. "Don't make me spell it out, Sharon. You're a smart girl. You know how this works." I felt the air leave my lungs. This wasn't just about grades anymore. This was about power, control, and something far darker. For the first time in my life, I felt truly trapped. I couldn't believe it. The same man who had praised me for my intelligence now wanted me to sleep with him for grades. I refused, of course. I wasn't that kind of person. Besides, I had a boyfriend now, a kind, supportive man who had no idea what I was dealing with. But refusing came at a cost. I sat for retakes, but somehow I failed again. My classmates graduated and I didn't. The news spread back home. My parents were devastated. They had sold a cow to buy me new clothes for graduation. The village whispered about how I had let them down. Even the girls who once looked up to me avoided me. To make matters worse, my scholarship sponsor backed out. They said they couldn't continue supporting a student who wasn't making progress. I was crushed. One day, I broke down and told my best friend, Grace, everything. She was furious. Without telling me, she posted my story on social media. The response was overwhelming. Girls from other universities came forward with similar stories. Dr. Omondi's name was everywhere. Some girls admitted they had given in to his demands, only to be discarded afterward. The university couldn't ignore it. Dr. Omondi was summoned by the Senate and an investigation began. I was terrified, but Grace stood by me. "You have nothing to lose," she said. "This isn't just about you. It's about all the girls he's hurt." The investigation revealed years of abuse. Dr. Omondi was fired and banned from teaching. The university remarked my papers, and I finally passed. When my name was added to the graduation list, I cried for hours. The day I walked across that stage, my parents were in the audience, clapping louder than anyone else. Back in the village, they slaughtered a goat to celebrate. The girls who had once avoided me now asked how I had stayed so strong. The moral of my story is one I hope no one ever has to live. For years, I blame myself. Did I say something wrong? Should I have spoken up sooner? But the truth is, power in the wrong hands can crush even the strongest spirit. Looking back, I wonder how many others went through what I did but stayed silent. How many dreams were shattered by people like Dr. Omondi, who saw their position as a weapon instead of a duty. I've learned that silence only protects the oppressor. Speaking out wasn't easy, but it was necessary. It made me realize the strength I never knew I had. Now, I ask you, if you were in my shoes, would you stay quiet? If you saw injustice, would you confront it? My story is proof that one voice can spark change. What will you do with yours? If you have a story that you want told so others can learn from, please share it with us. Thank you for watching and listening to this story. Please like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Cheers, guys. Have a good one.